right, guys, how's it going? Joe here again. We're going to be looking at some Reddit posts today. So just a quick background. Was addicted to porn for 17 years. Went through the NoFap arc, went through 2 paid programs, and all of that didn't work for me. In 2025, met Tom Molyneux and Mary Paulus, and they taught me what's known as the Beyond Compulsion method. This method is based on rewiring addicted neural pathways. Ever since, I never looked back, and since then, I've learned, along with hundreds of other guys, to stop pornography and stay stopped. And today, we're just going to look at some NoFap Reddit posts, because this is typically where we sort of start off when we learn about how to stop, begin our quote unquote journey trying to stop through, BCA. We don't like referring to it as a journey anymore, but for the purpose of explaining, it makes sense. But yeah, so I personally started on Reddit when I was looking for answers for this solution of how to stop and stay stopped. And there's a lot of pitfalls that at the time I didn't know. After going through the education, after understanding the sort of dynamics at play, what's going on the mental level, all the stuff that happens. And so what we're going to try and do here is unpack these posts and see where things are sort of going wrong from the start, right? If you're watching this and you see your post here, thanks for sharing. Great content here. Obviously, we'll remain anonymous. And we've also got Mr. Morgan that's going to be putting his input here. How's it going, brother?
It's going pretty good, bro. Thanks. How about you?
Awesome. All right, so let's just get into the first post. So again, great shares, but we're going to try and unpack a lot of this language that's going on, because a lot of it is coming from a place of non-awareness of where we're at in the mental position before trying to stop. And so we're going to try and get it right here. And yeah, I'm going to remember to try keep things or explain things in a simple manner so I don't get off track. All right, awesome. So this one titled 1 Year of Porn. So we're going to read some of it. I just want to report on my first year porn free with quotes. In the last 365 days, 360 were entirely porn free. So yeah, it's not 1 year streak, but it's a 98.6 success rate. Very precise there. 1 year and 2 weeks ago, after 15 years of porn addiction, I hit bottom 0, which I wrote about in another place. Summary: I self-stimulated in an insanely risky way. I could have died, but luckily only had to call an ambulance and confess to my boyfriend. So again, we have a story here where, like, when the addiction takes hold and when you're in the throes of addiction, it can take you to a sort of dangerous place where things are at risk and things get off track. A lot of the time, people end up in this area where they get to a point where they're in a lot of pain and problems in their life because they just haven't learned or ascertained the right way to stop, despite going through NoFap, going through all these like other paid programs, right? So carrying on, after that, I searched for an online forum of porn addicts and found this sub, like we all do, like we're here now. This was the first time that I came in touch with the approach of porn free, not reduced or softer, just plain porn free. And I read and learned a lot about my addiction, which also helped a lot. Now, this is what I sort of thought at the time as well. You do learn a lot about perhaps people's symptoms within the addiction, especially when it comes to Reddit, because there's a lot of convolution going on. But I get the point. It's sort of, yeah, you picked up a lot of stuff that you may have not have seen before from other people. You're sort of in this area where you're sharing and you're glad that, okay, well, at least there's other people going through this, but still, you're sort of stuck in your own thoughts. You're still in this place where it's like, how do I work this out? You may have learned a thing or two, but when it comes to stopping, you're thinking, damn, where do I go from here? So after 1 year porn free, I am a different person. I now feel my emotions instead of numbing them. So guys, it is true. There's another life on the other side of this addiction. There's another life on the other side of this compulsion. It's something to look forward to and it's worth it. I want to make sure that that's out there. That's something quite uncomfortable, but mainly a huge gift. That's also true. A lot of guys don't actually understand what's on the other side of porn because they've been in this problem for so long. They've sort of not been able to stop for so long and been in since they were like a kid, maybe start at 8 or 9 years old or 12 or 13. And they're thinking, what is it going to be like on the other side of porn? And that can feel a bit scary because you don't even know what's on the other side. So yeah, real talk. There's this illusion where it's sort of, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Can you kind of explain those feelings?
Yeah, so because you've been in porn for so long, since you've been engaging for years and years, and since you've been in this mental sort of state where you're constantly thinking about being in this cycle of relapsing, and so when you're relapsing all the time, you're feeling pretty crap about things, because don't forget, when you're in a porn addiction and you're not able to stop, and you're trying to stop and you keep on failing and failing again, it can be really hard, because you can really sort of have a lot of negative self-talk. Like you can say, like sometimes it appears as, why can't I figure this out? I find it really hard to quit. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe I'm not strong enough. And then like you start sort of bullying yourself because you can't find a way to stop. And because you've been in that state for so long, what happens is when you're able to stop and finally stop, and you start building a lot of that self-trust and integrity, you feel like, damn, what's on the other side of this? What's going to happen on the other side of this? And that can be quite intimidating, because although it's good, you still are quite uncertain on what's on the other side. So that can sort of throw a lot of people off.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Picked up one new hobby, gained 2 new friends, gained multiple kilos in muscle mass. I managed to steer myself through months of being jobless without getting too depressed, and now found a new job. That's important as well, because a lot of guys that went through BCA, they talk about how when they're actually stopped on pornography and staying stopped and have that self-integrity and self-trust in themselves, whatever's happening in life, whether you're going through something or you're trying to get to the next level in something, there's this sort of sense, this feeling of, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm going to be okay no matter what. But when you're in the addiction, because there's so much sort of negative self-talk, like you're bullying yourself a lot in your mind, there's this sense that it's still such a horrible, unenjoyable process of getting to your goals. But when you're off it, you have this sense of self-trust and everything's going to be okay. And that is limitless, I would say. Stunningly, most of my days, I'm not even thinking about porn once. But the very most important part is true feelings. My heart is open. It is the first time that I face and meet and come together with my boyfriend entirely, but also with myself. That cloud of lies and separation vanish. I won a life. So yeah, when you're off this addiction, when you're out of this compulsion is the better term to use here than addiction. Addiction can sort of get us derailed on a lot of things, but addiction, compulsion, we mean the same thing here. Essentially what they're saying is they're able to sort of have this feeling of connection with other people. Because when you're in an addiction, when you're in a full-time porn addiction, on the one hand, it's a full-time job, because it's also the lack of sleep, the lack of focus, the lack of healthy eating, all of that stuff comes with that porn addiction. And the problem is that when you're in that addiction as well, it's very hard to connect with people. It's very hard to feel connected with other people, because you've got this thing in the back of your head constantly, as we said earlier, negative self-talk, that bullying of yourself, right? So yeah, right. This is real talk. This is absolutely relatable. All right, so these points is where we're going to sort of break things down. So take up the fight. That is, wrap your head around your motivation, learn about your addiction, connect with others who go porn free, and then just do it. Don't ask yourself if wasting hours watching bikini girls on Insta account is porn. Delete that app, throw away the Playboy magazine, and manifest, I am past that attitude, and uphold a new version of yourself. This is the first point that I want to bring up where I disagree after having learned of what I've learned now. Not disagree as such, but I want to break down the thinking. But what do you think of this right now when you've just read that?
I feel like it's just like basic methods, but in reality or executing them, I don't feel like they're so doable.
Yeah, it seems quite hard, isn't it? When I'm looking at it, what I pick up is the attitude is there for sure, but the just do it attitude kind of moves us immediately into willpower. So
yeah, also I think it will cause a relapse.
Right, because you're constantly in the state of, I'm trying not to watch it, don't watch it, just do it, just not watch it. And when you're in that mental state, we all understand here, all of us understand the finite nature of willpower, and willpower being that thing which is not reliable, it's not something that is going to be able to have a consistent route through the addiction, where all the mental stuff, when we're in urges, when we're in discomfort, comes up in the moment. So willpower is definitely not the way. The other thing is delete the apps, get rid of the Playboy magazine. So what I want to say about that is, yeah, that will be a sensible idea to do when you're stopping. I think, however, with the tone of this point here, because it's just come from willpower, again, we're getting into deleting sort of triggers, getting rid of triggers out of our life. And we've been through triggers before on this channel. A reliable method is going to be able to deal with triggers, quote unquote, when they come up. So when you're throwing things away and you're getting rid of triggers, they might seem intuitive to sort of get rid of triggers, quote unquote. However, when it comes to being in the real world, triggers are going to come up left, right, and center. And so what you want is a system where you're prepared and ready for anything that comes up in your life, any quote unquote triggers that come up. You're able to process them and deal with the urges that come with them, that may come up after being, exposed, as you might call it. So getting rid of stuff, like installing blockers, deleting stuff, it can only work so much. It can only work for a while before you're reinstalling them and getting the magazines back and whatever back. What we want to focus on here is when you encounter a trigger, as they put it, and you feeling the urge, it's dealing with that urge in the moment. That's going to be where we want to be, dealing with it correctly, dealing it with the right mental attitude from a position of strength and power.
Is it like a routine, those methods?
You're about dealing with the urge, right?
Is it like a routine to execute while quitting it, like what you're talking about? You have some specific methods, like a routine?
Yeah, exactly. So in BCA, what we do is when the urge comes up, when you're feeling discomfort, you're feeling the urge, whatever is happening, whether it came from something that you saw, or whether it's just you at work and you're sitting there working on stuff, it's just whenever an urge comes up, whenever discomfort comes up, you're able to deal with it with a reliable method in that moment, at any time, at anywhere. So that's what we want to try and get to.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So the next one, do it for yourself. Yes, I felt accountable for my boyfriend to stop porn, but you are the one that's suffered. But you are the being that suffers the most. Porn is abuse to your soul, a massive threat to your happy life. Tell yourself, I deserve better. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Do it for yourself. 100% agree with that. Don't just do not porn. Do something else. Hit the gym, learn an instrument, join an NGO, make friends. When quitting porn, multiple free hours come together with a still restless mind and probably bad emotions which have been numbed before. Fill that gap actively, not just as a distraction, but as a new passion. So I've got a mixed feeling about that. Before I get into that, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think those ways are actually useful when you try to quit, but also those feel like rudimental happiness methods. Like it just needs to be done as well.
Yeah, precisely. And a lot of things here can give that feeling, which is good. It's always to have like that good mind.
Yeah, but one thing is you can still hit the gym, learn an instrument, or the other ones he mentioned, but you can still be addicted to this thing. So they're not quite the only solution, in my opinion.
Yeah, precisely. No, that's a great start. So what happens is, on the one hand, I kind of half agree with the do not porn, and I'll get onto the second part in a minute. The first thing I want to unpack here is that a lot of programs will, let's say, put you in a position where you're doing self-improvement in order to be the sort of thing that gets you to stop your porn addiction. For example, hitting gym, that's a really big one. And it's sort of like, as you said, you can still be in a porn addiction while getting like really fit and jacked. You can learn an instrument while in a porn addiction. You can do all these things while in a porn addiction. But a lot of times it's this sort of thing where you're either trying to do it as a replacement behavior. So for example,
exactly.
Yeah, you're trying to do what you're trying to do is use all these things as a replacement for porn. However, what happens is, because porn is a compulsive behavior, you have addicted neural pathways to porn at this point. Doing all these things that you're going to try and replace it with doesn't mean that the urge for porn isn't going away. It's not going to stop the wanting for porn. And even if you were to, let's say, feel the urge and hit the gym, it's still not going to connect with that desire. You're still not going to actually sort of solve the problem of when you come back from the gym and you're feeling urges again. It's not going to fix that problem. You're still going to feel in that state of compulsion, in that state of urges. And lo and behold, most commonly, you end up relapsing because you just simply delayed the behavior. You simply delayed the urge and it came back and you ended up relapsing again. However, when you actually have a method in place just to focus and deal with the addictive mechanism itself, the addicted neural pathways themselves. So for example, when an urge comes up, when the discomfort comes up at any moment, and you're able to deploy a tool in that moment, which enables you to think through the choice, process the urge from a position of power, strength, and stability, then what you can do is not feel unconfident, know that you've got that handled, process that urge in the moment. And then what happens is, because you find yourself in a position where you have that good energy, where you have that mental freedom, where you have all that extra time, it just organically happens that you hit the gym, you learn other things, you learn whatever you want to learn. And that's how it's happened. And that's what normally happens through people, for example, within BCA. They end up organically doing these things because they're able to deal with the addiction in those critical moments of urges. All right, next up, an important one: expect to stumble. In the first 4 months, I felt 0 attempt to relapse. Then came 2 months where I really had to fight and lost once. Then again, some months I didn't even think of porn. And after that, I relapsed 4 times in 2 months. There is no day-to-day linearity in it all, but the overall trend goes from numbed, restless guna to authentic, happy being. Don't be too hard on yourself when relapsing, but also don't give up your drive. So again, guys, yeah, when you're starting off, this is the process that you're thinking. It's sort of this mentality of what they call slips. So when you start stopping, when you're trying to stop, and you're going in there with like willpower, replacement behaviors, meditation, journaling, all this stuff, you have this strategy, which unfortunately, when you're going through the motions and you're facing urges, unfortunately, these strategies default to willpower at some level when the urges are really strong in the process of going through withdrawal. And so what happens is you're in that mindset of expecting to stumble. So in the first 4 months when you're in that withdrawal, I felt 0 attempt to relapse, or I felt like 1,000,000 attempts to relapse. It doesn't matter. What happens is when you're going through when you're going through it and you expect to stumble, one, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But number two, the issue is that there's this culture where we think about slips are part of the process, relapses part of recovery. And I used to think that as well. After having gone through like the education with Tom and Mary and going through BCA, the reality is that what happens is when you have that attitude of relapse is part of recovery, and let's say you stopped using pornography for some time, and then it comes to the point where you choose to engage again for whatever reason, not that the reason matters, but you choose to engage again. What happens is that the addicted neural pathways get spun right back up. The desire to watch more porn also goes right back up. And then you're in a position where you're thinking, oh crap, I want to have porn. I want more porn in my life again. And your old sort of thinking process comes back and all of this stuff comes back, which makes sense with the fact that where this user is saying, and after that, I relapsed 4 times in 2 months after having gone through, a long time of not engaging. This makes sense, and it really goes to show that if you choose to engage once, you're back in it, you're back in that compulsion, you're back in that state. So what I'm saying here is that when you decide to stop, and you don't have that sort of robust strategy to stay stopped, what happens is if you then choose to engage again, what tends to happen is your desire for porn goes right back up. you're back in the addiction, you're back into those habits of watching and acting out and edging for ages again and again and again. But what you want here is a strategy in place for when urges come up in the moment. You're not thinking about anything else. You just root yourself in the present moment, process the urge using a tool, staying in the present, going through it from a position of strength and power, knowing that you can facilitate a choice in that moment to engage or not to engage. And that's where we want to be. And the last point on this, thread, to overcome porn, don't focus on porn, focus on life. Now, when you're in a full-time addiction, when you're in a compulsion, it's very hard not to be sort of drawn towards porn. And I think I want to hit the nail on the head. I think I want to hit the nail on the head on this point, because a lot of people feel shame of when they're constantly in a state of thinking about their addiction, thinking about wanting to engage in it, thinking about wanting to engage in porn for however long in a day or any given week. And the issue here is that because you've been in that state of building up these addictive neural pathways for years and years and years, or perhaps just over a long time, a lot of people feel a lot of shame because they desire the porn and they desire what they desire, that they want to, the desire is that they want to act out in it. They want to engage in their addiction. And that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people do feel a lot of shame. And so I want to, for the record here, I just want to say, listen, if you're in this situation, they've been trying years and years to stop and you're not being able to stop, you just simply haven't ascertained the right strategy to stop yet. So don't feel bad about yourself. There's nothing wrong with you as a human being. You just haven't found the thing that's worked yet to stop, despite going through NoFap, despite going through other paid programs. There is something that's going to work for you. For me, it was BCA. BCA is just a solid sort of framework that is easy to understand, easy to sort of follow, and it makes sense why it works. And so that's why it was successful for me. But guys, again, there's nothing wrong with you for being in this situation as a human. It's just you have addicted neural pathways for porn, temporarily, of course, because these neural pathways can always be rewired. They can always be changed. All right, so these are driving your addiction. We do porn not to feel those emotions, but that can't work. We need to make changes and the drivers of those bad emotions. Again, here, there's this common thing within the space of porn addiction recovery where we're sort of thinking, oh, I'm using porn to mask an emotion. I'm using porn to deal with something or an uncomfortable feeling. Essentially, what it comes down to is the number one thing that you're trying to deal with in that moment is the feelings of withdrawal. It's the feelings of discomfort of withdrawal. Now, the addicted part of the mind, when you have addicted neural pathways, can attach any reason. Not that any of these reasons matter, not that any of these reasons are actually that valid as it pertains to you wanting to engage in your addiction. Because when you're in a compulsion such as a porn addiction, what happens is any reason or any excuse that your mind comes up with will be used to invoke that feeling of, damn, I want to watch porn right now. Damn, I want to engage in my addiction right now. So it doesn't matter what reasons come up. All that's happening is your mind just wants to get out of that feeling of withdrawal. That's all it comes down to. And so when you put emotions in the mix, what can happen is sometimes, oh, I need to go to therapy. I need to do extra reading. I need to do a lot of introspection. That will solve my addiction. But then they just end up back in a loop. They end up back at square one because that whole journey of trying to use that sort of angle to solve their porn addiction didn't work. Or let's say didn't make them feel stopped. Just wasn't able to get them to stop and stay stopped, despite perhaps learning one or two things about themselves, which of course is beneficial, but of course it doesn't stop your compulsion, or it doesn't stop you acting out in your compulsion, that is. Right, nice. We're on to the next post. Which one do you want to pick? All right, so next one, seeking accountability. Accountability partners is something in BCA I eventually learned that was not the sort of key to getting over a porn compulsion. Now, despite that, I went through other paid programs and I had accountability partners in both of those programs, and I wasn't able to stop and stay stopped with porn because of having an accountability partner. So what usually happens is we get into Reddit, we get into this life of trying to stop, and we're thinking, right, I need to get an accountability partner. It seems intuitive, it seems reasonable. It's like, well, if I'm going to slip up in my addiction, if I'm feeling like I'm going to slip up, I should get in contact with an accountability partner. Perhaps that's going to make me able to stop, and it's going to make me able to sort of rethink my choices in that moment. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. Let's just give this a read through. So late 20s, I feel trapped and powerless to this. Very common, guys. If you're feeling this stuff, this is very expected. Trapped, powerlessness. This is the addicted part of the mind speaking, especially if you've tried to years and years to stop. Absolutely normal to feel this way. I respected and have big responsibilities in my Catholic church. This is another thing as well, because a lot of people who are trying to live a good life, they're trying to live a wholesome life, they're trying to stick to good values. Porn is something that you don't agree with. Porn is something that goes, quote unquote, against your values. However, because you're still engaging in it, you have this mental conflict with yourself. You're sort of living this double moral life, even though you're like, I want to stop. I want to be able to stay stopped. There's that sort of addicted part of your mind which is saying, I want to engage in porn, I want to watch this, I have urges, and I want to act out on them. Completely understandable, completely normal. And this goes to show that anyone can be in this problem. It doesn't discriminate. You have all sorts of people within this compulsion. For most of my 20s, I've been addicted to pornography and sexting. I go through cycles of quitting and relapsing. We're all been there. We've all absolutely been there. I could spend the whole day masturbating and still want more. Day to day on the outside, I live what looks like a good Christian life, but I feel like lust, porn, and masturbation is the last habit which I'm quitting. Day 10 of forever. Man, that hits hard, because that's the thing. When I was in that compulsion, that state of compulsion, it did feel like, oh man, this is forever. This is a forever thing. And then the addicted part of mine was like, damn, will I ever be able to stop? Will I ever find a way out of this? It's going to be a forever thing. And that's the thing. The addicted part of the mind, when you're in that compulsion, by default, is invoking these thoughts and feelings as a symptom of the addiction. The symptom of the addiction being triggering that feeling that you want, that you're going to be in the compulsion forever, for a long time. And it's going to invoke like this powerlessness and hopelessness, completely common, completely normal symptom of being in this addiction. Let me just ask you, man, what do you think of this?
I feel like, yeah, it's relatable for myself too.
Yeah.
Also, the religious part is right, because you don't want to do that for your religious and morals generally. So yeah, I would like to know how he's been doing lately, because I wonder if he managed to actually continue or relapsed anything. Yeah, update will be nice.
Yeah, I think an update would be good as well. And if not, and if you wrote this, if you are the author of this post, feel free to reach out. I totally understand how that is. I've totally been in the same position as this post, and it's sort of living a double life. But it is, again, the mental conflict, a symptom of the addiction. And it's absolutely possible to stop and stay stopped, and mental freedom is possible. If you wrote this, absolutely get in touch. Or if anyone has been thinking in this pattern and sort of relates to this post, this is really what a lot of guys in BCA have been through as well. And it's a very common thought pattern, especially when you're in porn. It's sort of this double life thing. Again, absolutely relatable. Just want to touch on this accountability partner thing, as I said from the start, though. First of all, what do you think about accountability partner?
That might work, but I think it's just up to you generally. I believe like this.
That's totally right, because it does ultimately end up to you. All the accountability partners. Yeah.
For example, your parents can tell you that just study, but at the end of the day, you still can be not studying, like that.
Yeah, precisely. Because what happens is when you're in the first person experience of feeling urges and just feeling garbage, there's not a lot you can do when it comes to having a partner influence that. When you're in that compulsion, you're feeling these really strong urges. Time after time again, we find ourselves in a position where it's like, screw it. The accountability partner isn't available. Oh, you didn't get back to me in time. Oh, I talked to the accountability partner, but I'm feeling urges again. I don't want to reach out again because I feel like, I'm just a bit overbearing. And this is a problem, because no matter how much accountability that you put on yourself or you put into yourself from other people, number one, you're consenting to the mental position that you can't solve this by yourself, that you need other people to sort of get past this problem. It automatically puts you in a position where you can't, where you don't truly trust yourself on the mental level. And that makes sense. And number two, like I said, you want to be able to live that sense of autonomous. You want to be able to go through life autonomously, where you can trust yourself in every moment, knowing that you can deal with these issues on your own by yourself, and just thinking accurately and thinking and knowing that you've got this handled whenever this problem in your life comes up. You don't have to go back into these patterns of thinking, I'm feeling this about myself, I'm feeling that about myself. I have to reach out to somebody in order to sort of stop watching pornography. You want to stay structured and stay stopped. With BCA, with the 5-fact script, it's absolutely possible, a reliable tool that you can read anytime, anywhere, on your own, and process urge moment by moment, process the discomfort moment by moment at any moment. Click on the link in the description to take you to the addiction quiz. From the results, you'll know whether you have a compulsive behavior with porn or not. You don't have to opt in for further interest in BCA, and we'll just send you over the test results to your email.